So, what really went down? How did Muhammad Yunus get planted there? And what are the implications now that we have a government in the US which is not supportive of him? So, I'd love to have your thoughts on that.
So, Gaurav, what happened in Bangladesh was nothing but a regime change operation. We all thought it was this mass uprising of students and, all of that, but it seemed to have been a well thought of, calibrated regime change operation where it's almost like a script that's played out where you have the students taking to the streets in protests and they come over there and then the army is faced with the choice of firing upon its people and says, no, we can't fire on the protesters. Madam, you please leave the country. When Sheikh Hasina leaves, so Sheikh Hasina was someone who led a guided democracy, if you can call it that.
Sure.
She was a bit of an autocrat. She was not a dictator.
Right.
She was autocratic, but she led Bangladesh through 15 years of peace, progress, and prosperity. The kind of progress that they saw under Sheikh Hasina's rule, stability, peace. She had no contest with India. She wanted to raise the standards of the people of Bangladesh. And she did that to a point when, you had West Pakistan and East Pakistan. East Pakistan was always the basket case. West Pakistan was the shining star.
Right.
And in less than half a century,
completely flipped.
It just flipped. You had Bangladesh that had bigger foreign reserves than Pakistan. Sheikh Hasina did that. She was driven out of the country. And you have this very bizarre chief advisor who takes over, who we think is an interim, arrangement, which his only job is to hold elections.
Correct.
But 7 months down the line, you're looking at a chief advisor who's going around making geopolitical decisions.
Right.
He is aligning Bangladesh. He's taking them right into the China camp. And here is what happened. And this is what I believe happened is that he was largely seen as a Democrat, a nominee of the Democratic Party in the US,
Correct.
the Obama-Biden administrations. And it was a big shock to him when Trump came to the White House in November.
Right.
And it was an even bigger shock when he saw Prime Minister Modi and President Trump and the great bonhomie that they had in the White House, in the Oval Office.
Right.
And he said, oh my God, now I got to do something spectacular.
Yeah.
So he did this pivot to China and he goes to Beijing 4 days in the 26th of March. And he's offering himself and his country to China. He says, we can be your puppets. We can do what you want.
Right.
India has all these vulnerabilities. We have none of these vulnerabilities. Forgetting that India surrounds this country on 3 sides.
It does.
Bangladesh is created by India.
Yeah.
We have this romantic notion of the Mukti Bahini that fought for Bangladesh's freedom. Of course they did.
Right.
A lot of my family and friends fought for the liberation of Bangladesh. My co-author was one of that. Were key people who fought for the liberation of Bangladesh. They're all seen as heroes in Bangladesh. What they don't understand is that if the Indian Army, if the Indian Air Force and the Indian Navy had not converged in on East Pakistan, you would still have a East Pakistan today. There would have been no Bangladesh in 1971. But that said, what we are asking from our neighbors is a very small modicum of respect, that you don't cross our red lines.
Right.
Which Muhammad Yunus seems to have done by mentioning the chicken's neck and the fact that you have the northeastern states that are landlocked, and therefore Bangladesh is the kind of wedge between the sea and India's landlocked northeast. He's kind of crossed a couple of red lines over there.
Right.
And I think that's not been seen very kindly, but that's the whole game plan there. For Muhammad Yunus to reshape the terrain in Bangladesh, the political terrain. He is doing a terraforming operation where he wants to remove the Awami League as any kind of serious political player. He wants to bring in the BNP. And now the surprising thing is that the BNP is supposed to be seen as the party that's closely aligned to the Jamaat. The Jamaat being the hardline Islamist party of Bangladesh that never wanted independence.
Right.
Independence was always an Awami League project.
Correct.
And the BNP is now worried that, hey, when are we going to see elections? And this is what we have been saying in India, that please hold early elections.
Right.
And Yunus is not in the mood for early elections because he wants to terraform the whole political landscape in Bangladesh before he can call for elections. So he's obviously working with an agenda.
For sure. Yeah.
It's either his agenda, it's the Jamaat agenda, it's the US agenda, or it's possibly a mixture of all of this. But one thing is certain, Gaurav, that he's running out of time. He doesn't have a lot of time.
Agreed. No, I completely agree. I think he's painting himself into a corner. And I'm already seeing, a lot of that prosperity that, Bangladesh garment exporters in
Yes.
particular, have had, and, the orders they were enjoying, a lot of those have already started to slip away from their hands
Yes.
now. And, people aren't sure where this is really headed. So, and I've spent some time in Siliguri and, gone around those areas. And, one really does, of course, see the presence of the, the army and I think also the Air Force in that area.
Yes.
So where do you see this playing out? I mean, do you think that, India pushed to the corner might just say, okay, enough is enough, and they might actually go and do something?
India is too big to be pushed into any corner, Gaurav. I think we're just going to, ride out the storm. Unisys will come and go, but at the end of the day, it is, we are a geographical reality. We are on three sides of Bangladesh. They have just one other neighbor,
Correct.
Myanmar. They have a small little chicken's neck there with Myanmar,
Right.
which links them to their entire Chittagong district is linked through that one little chicken's neck across Tripura. So, I mean, there are vulnerabilities that can be played upon. I mean, that's not for me to say or suggest. I mean, whoever is doing it is possibly already working on it. But this is what India wants to do. I mean, the thing is that we are always seen as this big brother in the neighborhood. And yet, whenever there's a crisis, whether it's a fire, it's a flood, it's famine, it's a natural disaster, it's always Indian Air Force, Indian Navy and Indian Army that's there on the first responders on the ground, always and every time. Irrespective of the ideology of the rulers or the way they respond to us, we are always there. We're always there ready to help. So the thing is that we are going to grow at more than 6 and 8%, Gaurav. It's up to our neighbors to see if they want to be part of the India growth story, or they can just sit it out and, suffer.
Got that. No, you're totally right. I think even when this earthquake just happened, I think Indian forces were perhaps first responders. I think
in ours, we were there on the ground in ours. Our military aircraft, field hospital set up, the Navy had loaded up ships and they're sending it. So at the end of the day, we want to be good neighbors with all our countries. We don't have any kind of a Monroe doctrine or something. That's a very American thing, right? You don't come to this part of the world. This belongs to us and all that. We have a very benign view of things, especially when it comes to our neighbors. So I think Vasudeva Kutumbakam, a lot of people, we get a lot of flack for that. Oh, you guys are a soft state. And, but that has been the Indian state for eternity. For except a couple of, aberrations, we've always been that way. A benign, big power.
And I think it's worked to our favor and benefit. And I think all said and done, when you now travel abroad and you're telling people, you're from India, it's just that the conversations are so different to what they were, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And people like, India, interesting, we want to do work with you. We want to have conversations with you. And that wasn't really the case, earlier.
Yes.
Interestingly, I had someone who just came back from Germany and they were attending a very big fair. And the first question that they were asking, this guy's friend who was walking the fair with him, they said, are you American? Because they're like, if you're American, we don't want to have conversations with you. And I'm like, wow, like Europe speaking like that now. So all of this trade war thing is kind of heating up and is causing a little bit of issues there as well.